My name is Hillary. I was there in the living room of the house that, in a way, I helped keep standing several times. The first, when my father, Edward, was recovering from surgery and was out of work for months. And the last year, when the heater broke down right before a cold snap. I myself transferred the total amount to the contractor before they even called to ask. That day, however, I wasn't there to fix anything. I was just helping my father scan some documents for the health plan, something I did frequently. My father never got along very well with the scanner, even after years. He always said I was good with technology, although I'd worked in project management, not IT, for over a decade. He had left a pile of papers on the dining table. I started organizing everything quickly. Some medical records, health plan forms, a power bill or two. Suddenly, my eyes landed on something different. A thick, cream-colored folder, carefully labeled in my mother's handwriting, Inheritance Plan, Final Copy. I know I shouldn't have opened it. But the previous week, I had just paid their property tax bill, $2,253.81. And after that, I planned to stop by the pharmacy to pick up their blood pressure medication, as I always did. So yes, I opened it. Inside were the will, authenticated 2 months ago, their fully paid-off house, the remainder of the retirement accounts, a life insurance policy. And everything, absolutely everything, was going to my brother, Caleb Miller. 29 years old, unemployed, still living at home. He had dropped out of college twice and spent a few years working with music, which in practice meant playing in the garage and posting clips. My parents always said he hadn't found his way yet. My name, Hillary Miller, appeared only once in a single line. We love both our children equally and trust that they will take care of each other. That was it. No mention of the taxes I paid. No line about the savings I transferred without being asked. Not even a thank you. Just a polite way of saying, you don't need anything and we don't owe you anything. At first, I said nothing. I stood there, staring at the paper while the scanner hummed in the background. My hands were steady, but my breathing wasn't. My father returned with the tea. "Are you managing this pile, daughter?" he asked. I raised the folder. "Is this how it's going to be, Dad?" I asked in a low voice. "Everything to Caleb?" He froze, the tea halfway to his lips. Then he let out one of those long, tired sighs, which betrayed that he already knew what I had discovered. "It's not what you're thinking." I didn't answer because it was exactly what I was thinking. I didn't pressure him, not then. My father stood there, holding the tea as if that could explain something. Then he murmured, "We thought you would understand. You're fine, Hillary. You've always managed well." It was what they always said when they didn't want to explain themselves. "You've always managed well." Translation: you don't have the right to want more. I left the folder on the table and went out to breathe. The armchair on the porch creaked a little when I sat down. I myself had replaced that armchair about 2 years ago. In the same week, the washing machine and the refrigerator broke down, and I bought new ones because Caleb said he was between payments again. At that time, I didn't care. I was raised to take care of things, to take over. I grew up in that same house. I shared a room with Caleb until I was 13, when my father finally finished the basement. I still remember the day we painted the walls blue together, Dad, Caleb, and me. My mother brought us orange juice and said, "Look at our little team." Little team, I thought. I stayed in Riverton after college because my mother said she couldn't sleep when I was too far away. I turned down a job in Boston, even with an offer of more money and a faster path to leadership. I convinced myself that family was more important. They never asked me to sacrifice, but they never told me it wasn't necessary. There were the little things, paying their car insurance when they were tight, buying groceries, calling the credit card administrator when the late fees hit. And the big things, like transferring $16,000 from my savings to pay off the house loan for years ago. I did it without question. I just wanted them to feel safe, calm, without worries. And now, after all that, I was a footnote. I sat on the porch swing, looking at the old oak tree across the yard. Caleb had carved his initials into it once, CM plus LF, from a girl from his second school. I wondered if he ever helped pay to prune that tree. If he knew it cost $700 last year, after a storm almost split it in half. Did they even think about what I gave up? Not just the money, but the peace, the tranquility, the life I could have built somewhere else? Or did they just see me as the one who didn't need to be asked, because she always showed up first? I didn't go back inside. The porch swing creaked once under me and then calmed down. I could still hear the hum of the scanner through the screen door. A few minutes later, my mother came out. She was wearing the same lilac cardigan she always wore when she needed to say something serious. The one from Christmas when I gave her a gift card and Caleb a recorded CD. She said she loved us both. She didn't sit down immediately, just stood there, twisting the hem of her sleeve. "Hillary," she said, her voice neither too soft nor too harsh. I didn't look up. She sat down beside me anyway. "You weren't supposed to find out like this." I nodded once. I wasn't going to fill the silence for her. She let out a sigh, not exactly a lament, but a relief. "It's not that we don't love you." I remained silent. "Because what do you call love that forgets your name when it's inconvenient?" She stretched out her hand, resting it on mine. Her skin was warm, trembling slightly. "Caleb has been having more difficulties. You are strong, daughter. You always have been. Strong, firm, reliable. Words that sound kind until you realize they are cages. Labels that allow people to take from you without guilt." I pulled my hand away. "You could have told me," I said, my voice low and even. "You could have asked." She looked away, towards the yard. And that's when she said softly, as if saying it more gently would make it lighter, "We had to co-sign for Caleb. He needed help." The word felt like a touch, not a blow. But I heard everything in the way she said it. They didn't just exclude me from the will. They had already tied themselves to him with real numbers, real debt, real risk. "How much?" I asked. No answer. "Mom, how much?" Still nothing. Then softly, $30,000. I stood up. The wind had picked up. The old wind chime on the porch tinkled once and then fell silent. I looked at her, not with anger, just tired. "You didn't choose him because he needed it. You chose him because you already owed him." Her eyes widened, but I wasn't looking for an answer. I just didn't know the price included excluding me. I didn't text, I didn't call. I simply stopped. That week, I canceled the direct debit I had set up for their electricity bills. I deleted the reminder in my calendar to order the medications. I paused the grocery account that delivered every Thursday at 2 p.m. Nothing dramatic, no grand declaration. Just a silent change. An empty space where I used to be. I thought they would notice immediately, but a week passed and nothing. In the second week, I started receiving the first messages. My father's text came first. "The water bill came higher this month. Can you check the account?" I didn't respond. Then, "Mom, we're out of those low-sodium cookies you always bring." Caleb had forgotten. I left it unread. They weren't worried, not yet. They just assumed I was busy or in a bad mood, or tired from work. Maybe they thought I needed space. Maybe they thought I would come back as always. In the third week, the tone changed. "Hillary," my mother wrote, "the mortgage is due. Can you send what you usually send?" She didn't say hello, didn't ask how I was. Just a line, a number, a need. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I typed, "Ask Caleb." It's his house now. I pressed send and didn't wait. 5 minutes later, she called. I let it ring. Another message, "Please don't be like this. We need to talk." But there was nothing left to talk about. They had made their decision. I was finally living as if it mattered. That night, Caleb showed up. "Hillary, Don't make this a big deal. Just help them as always. As always. As routine as reflex. As if I was never more than a reliable background noise. I replied, "You're the one they chose, Caleb. So, be the choice." He didn't respond. The next morning, I woke up to a transfer request from my mother, $3,500. The exact amount of the overdue mortgage and penalties. No message, no note. Just the number. I declined. A minute later, the phone rang again and again. Then came this message, "We could lose the house if you don't help us." And finally, from my father, "Would you let your parents become homeless?" I almost laughed. They weren't homeless. They were just uncomfortable for the first time. They were learning what I had carried in silence, without asking. I hung up the phone. They didn't lose me when they took me out of the will. They lost me when they assumed I would keep giving. After that, a week of silence passed after I refused the transfer. No calls, no messages. It was the quietest I had known them in years. And somehow, that seemed louder than the pleas. I started sleeping better, waking up without checking my phone, cooking for myself and no one else. But silence never lasts in my family. Not when there's guilt to be transferred. The first sign was a voicemail from Aunt Nora. She rarely called me, always saying she didn't want to get involved in family matters. But that morning her message said, "I'm not taking sides, dear, but your mother is worried. Maybe it's best if you talk to them." That's when I knew they had started talking to other people. I checked Facebook. It didn't take long to find. A photo of the front porch, a caption that read, "We gave everything to our children, but sometimes giving isn't enough." Dozens of likes, some worried comments. One from Caleb, "Some people think family is about money. They forget it's about showing up." I closed the app. Not with anger, just empty. They weren't just disappointed. They were rewriting the story, turning me from caregiver into villain, because I had stopped showing up to be used. The next afternoon, an envelope appeared in my mailbox. Simple, no return address. Inside, a foreclosure notice, just a copy, not addressed to me. But I knew the house number. I held it for a moment, looking at the paper. Then I turned it over and wrote on the back, "Maybe you should have left it to someone who could manage it." I didn't send it. Instead, I checked the county website. Their property was officially listed as at risk, with overdue payments, with no reserves. They had burned through the savings, probably trying to keep up appearances. Maybe hoping I would give in before things got serious. Caleb had spent it all. All the money they left him for security, for stability, for his future. Gone. There was a time when I would have intervened. I would call the bank, negotiate a grace period, move funds. But now, I poured a glass of water, sat at the kitchen table, and let the house crumble without me. Sometimes you don't need to set a fire, you just need to stop carrying the water. It started small, a vague post from my mother with a sunflower emoji, a photo of her and my father smiling on the porch. We raised them with love. We did our best. But sometimes love isn't enough. No names, no direct accusations, but I knew what it was. And anyone who knew us did too. Aunt Tanya commented, "You two are such incredible parents. You deserve better." My father followed a day later. A longer post, less subtle. "We gave everything to our children, time, money, love. We thought we raised them right, but in the end, you can't control who turns their back on you." He tagged me. No call, no message. Just a post for everyone to see. I didn't respond. I just watched it grow. Dozens of likes, friends and family commenting. Some I hadn't seen since high school. One wrote, "This generation just doesn't understand sacrifices." And then, of course, came Caleb. He shared his father's post with his own caption, "Some people only care when they're getting something." I would give everything to protect my mother and father. I guess not everyone sees family that way. I read it twice, then again. The same man who hadn't paid rent in years, who drained every dollar they had, who watched the house fall apart, was painting himself as the hero. The comments were worse. "You're such a good son. Your sisters should be ashamed. They gave her everything. She just wanted more." They didn't know the truth, but they didn't want it either. They wanted a story, and my family gave them one. I might not have said anything yet, let the storm pass, but then I saw her name, Evelyn. My cousin, the one who once told me, "You are the glue of this family." She liked the post. Left a heart emoji. No comment, just that. That hurt more than I expected. Maybe because I thought she knew the truth. Maybe because I thought she saw me. I closed my laptop, sat in the dark, and for the first time in weeks, I felt something break. Not loud, not messy. Just a silent, final click. They weren't just rewriting the story. They were erasing me from it. They came on a Thursday. I should have expected it. The messages didn't work. The requests for money were ignored. The guilt had soured. So they showed up. The reception called at 10:30 a.m. "Ms. Miller, your parents are here and a man who says he's your brother." I stood in the hallway outside my office, looking at the floor tiles as she continued talking. "They're asking to come up. They said it's urgent." I took a deep breath. "Please tell them I'm not available and that they weren't expected." A pause. "They said they'll wait." I nodded, although no one could see. "Then let them." 20 minutes later, my phone vibrated. A message from my mother. "We're downstairs. Open the door." Another. "We're not leaving until we talk to you." I didn't rush. I finished the meeting I was in, answered 2 emails, and then went down. They were near the entrance of the building, very close to each other, as if they had rehearsed. My father rigid, as if he were holding a sermon. My mother, clutching her purse with both hands, her eyes attentive. Caleb looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. Everyone turned when I came through the door. No one spoke immediately. I stayed where I was, arms crossed, calm. "Hillary," my mother said, her voice already on edge. "We need to talk." I looked at her and then at the street. The street was silent. A delivery van rumbled in the distance. I didn't respond. My father cleared his throat. "Would you really let us lose the house because of this?" I let the words hang. Then, "Did you really think I wouldn't?" He opened his mouth, but I interrupted him. "You excluded me. You gave everything to Caleb. Now you're here asking for the same support I gave for years, without question." No one answered. My mother took a step forward, her voice softer now. "We thought you would understand. You've always been strong." I nodded. "You used that as an excuse to forget me." Caleb finally murmured something. I didn't understand everything. Something about not having asked for any of this. "But you accepted," I said. He looked away. My father's hands were on his hips now, impatient. "We fed you. We raised you. You owe us something." I almost laughed. "I paid that debt every month, every year. And you erased me anyway." My mother's lip trembled. "We didn't mean to hurt you." I took a step closer. "Then why did you wait for me to disappear before realizing that I was the one holding everything together?" They said nothing. Caleb reached for the door. I raised my hand. "No. You're not coming up. You're not coming in. I won't be your answer this time." No screams, no scene. Just stillness. They stood there, 3 people who once called themselves my family. And I was tired of trying to be seen by people who only looked when they needed something. They didn't lose me when they changed the will. They lost me when they believed I would never leave. I didn't block their numbers. I didn't need to. The silence I gave them was louder than anything they could shout back. They texted for a while. My mother tried with soft words. My father grew colder, blaming, demanding. Caleb remained almost silent, just one last message. "Do you think this makes you better?" Leaving. I didn't respond. A few days later, I went for a walk. Without purpose, just movement. My path, unintentionally, curved towards the neighborhood where I grew up. The old street looked the same. Cracked sidewalk, a half-painted fence. But the house, a for sale sign on the lawn. Faded blinds, dying grass. I stood on the sidewalk and looked at it. The porch light was off. The armchair I fixed was gone. The hanging wind chime too. I didn't approach. I didn't need to see inside to know what had collapsed. That house never kept me. I kept it. And now it was someone else's problem. As I turned to leave, my phone vibrated in my pocket. Once, then again. I didn't reach for it. I already knew the name that would be on the screen. I let it vibrate, then it stopped, then it vibrated again. I picked up the phone and looked. Missed call mom. Missed call dad. And then voicemail. I muted the phone, put it back in my coat pocket. No message was necessary. I already knew what it would say. I walked home in the slow, cold air of a late autumn afternoon. Not angry, not avenged. Just free. I was never their plan B. They just liked to pretend I would never leave. Thank you for listening to Hillary's story. Would you do the same as her? Would you stop helping your parents financially after finding out that they didn't include you in the will and after having helped them with so many debts? Tell us in the comments. We want to know your opinion. If you like this story, please like and share this video to support us and subscribe to the channel for more amazing stories.